This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
Oh, boy.
You be the judge.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled.
Another bad idea.
I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Order in the court.
This is Wretched Radio, idea at wretched.org. That's how to send us stuff. Questions, comments, conundrums, or snarks, idea at wretched.org. Tony, I hold in my never-stained, nicotine-stained, whatever, I never smoked,
I got you covered. Don't worry about
hands, 3 emails that I received, idea at wretched.org. You tell me what they have in common. Are you ready? Okay. Here we go. Story number 1. Joseph writes this, and I have no idea why, except I'm just going to assume this was to help me in evangelism. When somebody says all roads lead to God, or if you want to call that a chicken, but it's actually a bottle of water, you can do that because words are just symbols and don't have meanings. How many legs does a dog have if you call the tail a leg? 4, because calling a tail a leg doesn't make it a leg. That right there should be the end of postmodernism. Sadly, it's not. That was email number 1. Here's number 2. Todd, repeatedly I have people tell me that the animals in their lives, their dogs and cats, are more important to them than people. That such relationships are easier and the love is unconditional. Yeah, they are easier. And the joys aren't nearly as profound. Not even, look, dogs are, I love dogs. I mean, I go to the gym, you probably noticed, and there's a guy who always brings in a dog. He's training a service dog. Now, these aren't the ones for people, for instance, with eyesight issues. They're like comfort dogs, people with PTSD, although I don't think it's a D. I don't think it's a disorder. I think it's a perfectly correct response to something horrific. These are dogs that are just supposed to calm the person down, be with them in public. Huge blessing. So he brings it in, and I never thought I'd say this, because if you love dogs and you walk by one of those service dogs, you want to pet the dog, and what does the big thing on his back say? Don't pet the dog. This one says, pet me, I'm friendly. Have you ever seen somebody in public lie down on the floor with the dog, even knowing that a lot of people are watching him? Yeah, well, that would be me right there. Okay, I love dogs, okay? But they're not people. I remember this years ago. We had just moved, and we were pregnant with our first child. And I loved my dog. Fred was a great dog. Man, Tony, did you ever get to meet Freddie? I think you did. I think you did. You just don't remember.
I would remember Freddie.
Freddie was a
remember
great
you,
dog.
but I would remember Freddie.
See, and I was in the basement, and I was with the dog, and I started talking to the dog. Okay, don't tell me you don't do it too. And I went, he doesn't get this. He can maybe pick up some stuff by the tone of my voice, but he doesn't know what I'm trying to communicate to him. I can be, oh, you're just a wonderful little, would you like to go get a little treat? We've got some chicken upstairs. Would you? Can't get it. He can maybe get the excitement in my voice or the juvenile childishness in my voice, but he doesn't know what I'm saying. And I thought, kids are better. You can communicate to kids. They don't listen well, but you can communicate to the kids. Furthermore, the love that you get from a child, come on. I just watched some of those dog videos. There was a video of a dog that had been reunited with its owner after 3 years. 3 years. The dog somehow ends up in the pound. So the dog now is being reunited, and he's kind of like gun shy. And then it clicks, and the dog goes nuts. There was another one where the guy had been separated for 8 months, and he comes home, and the dog comes out, and this couldn't control himself. Better to get a hug from a kid, because they're humans. It's more profound, and it's deeper. And I would say to Jesse, who wrote this, to those people, it's because they just have a bad worldview. It's just skewed. They're look, it's all nouthetic. It's just the noetic, rather. Similar. Noetic. and that their brains just, they've got their priorities wrong. It's goofed up. Marriage is hard. Having kids is difficult, but it makes you more Christ-like, and it's more profound. I'm telling you, and you're on your deathbed, you're probably not going to call for your pooch. You don't want your kids to be at your bedside. He writes such maybe Jesse's a she. Sorry, Jesse. Could be either way. Wait a second. Jesse. Do we have the gender ruling on that? Either one?
That tends to usually be, I think Uncle Jesse.
Sexist!
Whichever one you prefer.
Such relationships are preferable to human ones. Yikes. So given the choice, they would save their pet over a person because, well, there's so many people. Maybe even too many people. Yep. I'm thinking of Untethered. Do you remember that 6-part series that we did? It's available at wretched.org. Went to university campuses, and we asked the kids, here's the scenario. You come upon a pool in your backyard or the neighbor's backyard, and your neighbor whom you're not very fond of is drowning in the water next to your dog whom you love. Who are you going to save? That's a hard one. No, it's not a hard one. Why would people put pets at the same level as humans? Well, that's what they're taught. We're just animals. We've crawled out of the muck and mire, and we're just lucky. We're a little bit more sophisticated, maybe, but we don't love as well because their love is unconditional. It's a confused worldview. That's story number 2, Tony.
Yep.
You seeing a theme yet? Don't say it.
Well, so far,
this might throw
animals.
you. No? Okay, fine. Good one. Hey, Mr. Friel, I'm confused with what Jesus is saying about looking with lust. You're committing adultery. Question, what did Jesus mean by that? Did he mean to define the only way that you can lust is if you're lusting after another man's wife, because that's committing adultery, because you can't commit it, or if you're married, that's committing adultery because you can't commit adultery if you're not married. So you got to be married, and only then if you look at a woman with lust are you committing adultery. Was that his point? No. His point was don't look with lust. It's a sin on the same par as adultery. Okay, there's a difference between the physical and the imagination, but his point is it's a wicked sin. That's the point. So this person writes, normally when we look to date someone, obviously the most important thing is that they're Christian. Yep, but sexual attraction is a very important part as well. I've been thinking about this, and I will admit to you that I do not have this fully articulated yet. Should sexual attraction be a component in picking a spouse? And I think the answer is yeah, but I think it's not a very important. I think it's on the list of considerations, but there's about 50 things that I think should come in front of it. It's not that it's entirely insignificant. It's that it's just not nearly as important as, for instance, being a Christian, being Proverbs 31-like, or by being a godly man. Anger, not having, being peaceable, being kind, being an encourager, all of those way more important. How do they get along with their siblings and their family? Way more important than, yeah, I kind of like what I'm seeing right there. So now we ask the question, where's this line? If I admire an attractive woman's body, did I commit adultery in the heart? Here's where we start. And Tony, I'm going to ask you, do you now see the theme in these 3 stories? Yeah, you seeing it maybe yet? All right, here it is.
I think, but I'm not
Point
sure.
number 1. Men are dogs. That we are lusting, panting, in heat dogs. Let's start there. Let's then begin or continue with aiming for the highest standard, not the lowest. All right, how many girls can I scope and not be committing adultery in my heart? By just appreciating their attractiveness, which I got to tell you, there's another one I've been thinking through, and it's like, that's a tricky one. Job made a covenant with his eyes not even to look upon a beautiful girl, because you can kind of in the periphery, you can see a figure that causes you to go, yep, that's worth looking at. And he said, I'm not going to do it. Not going to turn my eyes. I'm going to avert my gaze to avoid lusting. So nevertheless, begs the question, really, can you look at somebody of the opposite sex without sexual desire? Yes, you can. You can. Now, what do you do, though, with, well, I'm dating somebody and, the sexual attraction? I think that there's a big difference between attraction being considered and imagined. Yeah, you can be aware of it. You can, yep, okay, that's. Yeah, I'm excited about that aspect of our potential relationship, as opposed to dwelling on it, imagining it, thinking it through, desiring it really, really bad, like you can't even wait. So, all that to say, yeah, I guess you can look upon a woman and not lust if she's beautiful. But wow, let's maybe shoot for a higher standard than just appreciating beauty, which sounds an awful lot to me like lusting. This is Wretched Radio.